guys, what is up and welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. In the last episode, we finished off the final investigation and we found some interesting things. I have no idea what's going to go on in the trial today, but yeah, let's get going. February 25th, 9:47 a.m., District Court Defendant Lobby Number 2. This is the defendant lobby, all right, but there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if... Edgeworth! Knowing you, you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 7777777 ID number is. I think I said the right amount of sevens. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt on this ID record. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling on the defendant. 5 minutes after the trial starts, Lana will be found guilty. But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth? Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, Wright. This is it. If I'm ever gonna find out what Chief Gan has on her, it's now. February 25th, 10 a.m., District Court, Courtroom Number 9. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant. Morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Hey, G, been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. Oh, that's a good one. Don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is this proposal of yours? Why don't you all come swimming with me? Lana, that is to say the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request and I'll be finished. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No, Lana! No, Lana, no. You can't. Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana! Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. Well, the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation. Her request is legally valid, although this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening. It appears the time for a verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant... Objection? There you go. Thank you, Edgeworth. One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth, The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you. Well, why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut, I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the little naive boy you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh, to whom? As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony.
Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to continue.
I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. Very well. The court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Mark my words. Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand.
Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins.
Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation.
My name is Emma Skye. My occupation? I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator.
2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct?
Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though.
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time. Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant? Yes, it most certainly is. Well, okay then. You sure gave in fast. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago.
The trip to yesteryear? The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me. But I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest.
It's a good thing you weren't harmed.
I passed out. I don't remember much.
That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence. Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. "2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct?"
Yes, she was second in command under Chief Detective Gant. My sister, she was the best detective ever.
Yes, I remember. Chief Detective Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair. I believe they shared the same office.
That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day, too.
The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day.
Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work.
A man?
Yes, Joe Dark. He was a serial killer.
Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of that ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest. When he saw his chance, he fled to the room, right? Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then he ran into Sky in Chief Gant's office.
There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him.
What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were 2 people present during Dark's questioning. Detective Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Gant was there too? Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony. I assume that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark.
When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was as good as dead.
And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in?
I don't clearly remember what happened then, but...
Can you tell us about that?
Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark just then. Just then, the lights went out.
The lights?
It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on and lightning struck nearby.
So the electricity went out? Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right?
Right, but just then lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind.
I see.
I told the detective about what I saw then.
The detective?
Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case.
Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago?
Yes, that's what's so scary about this trial.
And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw?
Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture.
A picture? Yes, I think she mentioned that before. Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough? This picture the witness drew. I believe it has a very important meaning. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony?
Yes, Your Honor.
I drew a picture of that scene once, but it seems to have been lost. You drew a picture of the scene you witnessed, right?
Yes, I wanted to do everything I could to help the investigation. I can still see it now, whenever I close my eyes.
That's strange. I took over the case after Prosecutor Marshall died, yet I never received any picture. Perhaps the witness is mistaken?
But I did draw it, I swear! I'm not just imagining it.
This picture that Emma drew, that reminds me. I guess I should check the evidence again. Well, anyway, let's continue. The scene that imprinted an image in your mind, can you please describe it to us?
The man...
That must have been a real shock.
Even now when I close my eyes, I can still see it just as clearly.
Tell us, what were you doing at that moment? I believe you testified that Joe Dark was holding you hostage.
When lightning struck and the lights went out, Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. I was thrown aside and the two began wrestling each other. I'm pretty sure I was watching them.
Emma doesn't have any reason to lie, but Lana sure does. I need to get Emma to tell me as much about this as she can. Okay. There are a lot of pieces of paper. Okay, that's all it is. Oh. Oh, what's this? What is this? A picture is drawn on the back of the evidence list in magic marker. I've got a very bad feeling about this. Oh. Am I allowed to present this? Okay. Mr. Edgeworth. This little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you still insist on denying its existence. Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold, this is the evidence list for the SL9 incident. Please turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over? Turn it... Oh, what's this? Yes, what is that?
Hey, that's it! That's the picture I drew!
Indeed. Two men appear to be wrestling here. What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have had access to that list. Huh? These lists, they're different from each other. What? It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case was ever reached you. What? What? Order! Who'd have thought the picture would have been drawn on the back of the evidence list?
That was handed to Detective Goodman in the questioning room. Room? Question mark?
Wait a minute. If this list was torn in half, then that means... Your Honor. Are you alright, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head. If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list. Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth. It's possible. Let's see. Is something wrong? Do you even have to ask? Oh my god. Sorry, Your Honor. There is something drawn on the back of my list. This is that thing. That's that thing! That thing was dancing in the evidence room! Apparently the head of criminal affairs used this for his blueprint. I guess he was out of scrap paper. What the hell? Very well. Witness, will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago?
Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor.
What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she saw the picture.
This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant.
To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind! Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Alright, I think that's where we're going to stop for today. Thank you guys ever so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and maybe even subscribe. I'll see you next time!